The fastest woman in the world is not the name you were told to watch. Her name is Melissa Jefferson-Wooden, and in the fall of 2025, she ran 10.61 seconds to win the World Championship, a championship record, while the cameras and the headlines were still pointed at someone else. This is the story of the woman nobody picked, the one everybody hunts now. Think about what that number actually means. 10.61 seconds. That is the time it takes you to read this sentence out loud, slowly, once. In that span, she covered 100 meters of red track, faster than every other woman on the planet that year. And here is the part that should stop you cold. She was not the favorite walking into that stadium. She was the question mark. For years, the story of American women's sprinting had a single face on the poster. Sha'Carri Richardson, the world champion from 2023. The name in the captions. The athlete the broadcasts followed from the warm-up track to the blocks. When people argued about who was fastest, they argued about her. The microphones found her. The slow-motion replays lingered on her. Melissa Jefferson-Wooden was in the conversation, the way a side note is in the conversation. Present, rarely named first. The kind of athlete you only notice once she has already passed you. So picture the scene before any of it happened. An empty lane at dawn, the stadium silent, a single pair of spikes pressed into cold red tartan. Months of mornings nobody filmed. Starts nobody clapped for. The unglamorous arithmetic of getting 1/10 of a second faster, then another, then another. Chalk on the hands. The block pedals set, then reset. The same drive phase run 1,000 times until the body forgets how to do it any other way. While the world watched the famous lane, the work was happening in the quiet one. And this is the cruel math of the 100 meters. There is nowhere to hide in it. A marathon forgives a bad mile. A long race lets you recover, lets you think, lets the story turn at the end. The 100 meters gives you none of that. It is over before the crowd finishes its first roar. One twitch off the blocks, one stride out of rhythm, and the race is gone before you even know you lost it. To be the best in the world at it, you cannot be a little better than everyone. You have to be perfect in the one window where perfection is the only thing that counts. That is the event Melissa Jefferson-Wooden quietly made her own while the spotlight pointed everywhere else. Then the gun went off in Tokyo on the 14th of September, 2025, and the side note ran away from the entire field. Picture the blocks set against red tartan, 8 bodies coiled, the stadium holding one breath. The start is clean. For the first 30 meters they are a wall, shoulders even, spikes biting the track in the same rhythm. You cannot tell who is winning. And then one figure begins to pull. Not by inches, by a gap you can see from the cheap seats. By the time she crosses the line, the race behind her is a different race entirely. A scramble for the places that are left. Her winning margin was 0.15 seconds. In a 100-meter final at a world championship, that is not a win. That is a statement. It stands among the largest victory margins in the history of the event. Understand what that takes. The women chasing her were not slow. They were among the fastest human beings alive. They were simply too late, watching a back pull away from them in the most important race of the year. Look at who she beat, because this is where the impossible part lives. Behind her gold in 10.61, Tina Clayton took silver in 10.76, a personal best, the run of her life, and it was not even close. Julian Alfred, the Olympic champion, took bronze in 10.84. Shericka Jackson finished 4th in 10.88, and Sha'Carri Richardson, the biggest name in the sport, the face on the poster, finished 5th in 10.94. Shelly Ann Fraser-Pryce, one of the greatest sprinters who has ever lived, finished 6th in 11.03. Read that order again, slowly. The woman nobody put on the poster beat the world champion, the Olympic champion, and a living legend, all in the same 10.5 seconds. Every name behind her was supposed to be the story. She turned all of them into the supporting cast. Sit with what that finish line looked like. A row of the fastest women alive, all of them lunging, all of them giving everything their bodies had, and one of them already gathering her arms up in front, already standing tall, already done while the rest were still racing. Silver was a personal best, and it was not enough. The Olympic champion ran 10.84, a time that wins almost any final ever held, and it was good for bronze. The biggest name in the entire sport crossed in 5th. On most nights, in most races, every single one of those women is the headline. On this night, they were the field. They were the wall she ran through. And think about the emotional weight of that 5th place finish. For years, the broadcasts had built one narrative, followed one athlete, sold one face as the future of American sprinting. That athlete crossed the line fifth, in 10.94, a time that would have won plenty of championships in plenty of years, on a night when it was not even on the podium. Not because she failed, because someone the cameras had barely framed had simply become faster than the story everyone agreed to tell. And the 10.61 is not just a fast time in a fast race. It tied the fastest time ever run at a global championship. Let that sit. Of every world championship and every Olympic Games ever contested, no woman had ever run the 100 meters faster on that stage than the number she put up that night. It made her one of the fastest women in history and the fastest American woman alive. Now let us be precise, because precision is the whole point of this story. This was not the world record. The world record in the women's 100 meters still belongs to Florence Griffith Joyner, 10.49, set back in 1988, a number that has stood for almost 4 decades and outlived entire careers. What Melissa Jefferson-Wooden ran was a championship record, the fastest the world stage has ever seen, tied. One step from a ghost that has haunted the sport since before most of her rivals were born. Close enough to feel the breath of it, not yet close enough to touch. Here is the question I keep coming back to, and I want your answer in the comments. How does an athlete go from the side note to the fastest woman in the world in a single season, and why did almost nobody see it coming? Because that is the truth of 2025, and it is bigger than one race. She did not just win one final on one perfect night. Across the entire season, she was undefeated in the 100 meters. Every line, every final, every rival who showed up convinced this was the day they would take her. She beat all of them, every single time. She was the fastest woman of the year. Not on a fluke, not on one warm afternoon with a friendly wind, but on demand, race after race, when it mattered most. And she did not stop at the 100. In Tokyo, she went hunting for the sprint triple, the 100, the 200, and the relay, the thing only the rarest sprinters even dare to attempt. Most never try. Of the ones who try, most fall short, because winning one sprint at a world championship empties a body, and she was being asked to do it 3 times over a single week, against fresh legs each time. She took the 100 in 10.61. Then on the 19th of September, she went to the line in the 200 and ran 21.68 seconds, a world lead, the fastest 200 meters anyone ran on Earth all year. The longer sprint, the one that punishes a 100 specialist on the curve, and she ran the best in the world at that too. Then she anchored the United States to gold in the 4x100 meter relay in 41.75. The baton hitting her hand, and the lead never leaving her lane. 3 golds, 1 championship, 1 woman, a clean sweep of the sprints at the highest level the sport has, and a gold medal hanging on a ribbon for each of them. Stop and weigh that for a second, because it is easy to let 3 numbers slide past. 3 finals, 3 different demands on the same body. The explosive violence of the 100, the brutal sustained speed of the 200. The pressure of carrying a national relay across the line with the whole team's medal sitting in your hands. To win any one of those at a world championship is the achievement of a career. To win all 3 in a single week is the kind of season that gets a name written into the history of the sport in permanent ink. If you believe Melissa Jefferson-Wooden is going to win Olympic gold in Los Angeles in 2028, subscribe right now, because you are going to want to say you saw it before the rest of the world did. Because here is the thing about being the woman nobody picked. You only stay invisible once. After Tokyo, the poster changed. The cameras turned. Every coach in every country went home and watched that 100-meter final frame by frame. The start, the drive, the moment she pulled away, and they all wrote the same name at the top of the page. The hunter became the hunted. She walked into 2026 as the reigning world champion at 100 and 200 meters, ranked number 1 in the world over 100, and now every starting line in the sport had a target painted squarely on her back. And this is where the story stops being a coronation and becomes a fight. Because the rest of the sport did not roll over and hand her the throne. One rival in particular stepped forward, and she has a name worth remembering. Julian Alfred, the Olympic champion. The woman who took bronze in Tokyo and went home not satisfied, but studying, watching the tape, closing the gap in the dark while everyone else was still applauding the champion. On the 4th of June 2026, at the Rome Diamond League, they met again over 200 meters. And this time the result was different. Julian Alfred won in 21.93. Melissa Jefferson-Wooden finished second in 22.117. The champion got beaten, the hunted got caught. For the first time since her rise, the woman at the very top of the world had to walk off a track watching someone else cross first. That is what makes 2026 dangerous, and alive, and worth watching. This is not a victory lap. This is not a story that already ended. This is a rivalry, real and unfinished, between the fastest woman in the world and the one challenger who has proven, on a real track, on a real day, that she can take her. Two of the fastest women alive, drawn into the same lanes, each one now forcing the other to find another gear. Rivalries like this are what the sport is built on, and this one is only getting started. Picture the blocks at the next start they share. Two figures, backlit, settling into the same crouch a few lanes apart. The crowd noise dropping to nothing. Both of them knowing exactly what the other can do, because both of them have already felt it. That is the matchup the whole sport is waiting for now, and neither one of them is the underdog. Neither one of them is safe. But do not write the champion off, because 3 days later she answered. On the 7th of June 2026, at the Stockholm Diamond League, Melissa Jefferson-Wooden went to the line for her first 100 meters of the season, and won it in 10.84 seconds, with a legal tailwind, off her personal best but fully in command of the field. The champion who lost on Wednesday won on Saturday. That is what champions do. They bleed in one city, and then they come back faster in the next. So here is the honest picture of exactly where she stands right now. She is the reigning world champion at 100 and 200 meters. She is ranked number 1 in the world over 100. She is healthy, she is racing, and her season is only just opening, which means the 10.84 you just heard is early form, not her ceiling. Remember, her real number is 10.61. The gap between where she is in June and what she has already proven she can do is the most exciting empty space in the entire sport, and it is hers to close. Imagine the empty lane again at dawn, the floodlights cooling overhead, a single pair of spikes resting on the red track, and a stopwatch face frozen on a number that almost touched a ghost from 1988. That is the question hanging over everything she does from here. Not whether she is great. She has already settled that. 3 golds and a championship record settled it. The real question is how much faster she can still go, and whether anyone, Julian Alfred included, can stay in the lane beside her when she finally reaches for it. The woman nobody picked is now the woman everybody hunts. And the chase has only just begun. So tell me in the comments, does Melissa Jefferson-Wooden stay the fastest woman in the world before this story is over? Subscribe so you are here for every step, because if this is the beginning, you do not want to miss what comes next.